Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, or evening, or afternoon. This is Chaplain Huang, and today I'll talk about UCAS system. So recently I realized that UCAS just opened its new entrance, so people, you can start grinding now, and I think that it would be really cool for me to just share with you guys the tips for the essay for UCAS system. So if you don't know, I actually applied to UK schools during last application season, and I got into University of Cambridge, University of Edinburgh, University of St.Andrews, and UCL. And I got rejected by LSE. Let's go. I think that essay is a really important thing of your application, and it would be really good if you can start as soon as possible. Like, long story short, I actually started to apply for schools 1 week before the deadline for Cambridge University, which is crazy. The night I decided to actually apply, I try to Google everything possible I can find on the internet so that I can write the essay well. So today I'll be sharing with you guys the tips that got me into all these 4 schools, and then I'll read my essay because that's the interesting part, right? Tips. So the first tips I have is to write about major. So you have to really understand that UK schools are really different from US schools. So they don't really need you to be diverse. They might not need a biology students to sing or dance. They just want to see that you are really specialized in your field and you are prepared to learn about that specific major. Yeah, kids, someone are really interested in you guys studying. That's UK schools! Write about your major instead of some kind of other extracurricular activities. Write about the research that you did or another academic summer program you did about that specific major. That will really help your application. The second tips I have is to write about your major, but don't flex that hard. What do I mean? Like, if I'm an economics major and I write about a biology student's application, or maybe chemistry, let's do chemistry, and that will be if you flex too hard, that will be if blah 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 mixed with blah blah blah, and it will create blah 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 because it's really important because blah 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 is blah blah blah, and blah 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 will contain blah blah blah, which will have another reaction with blah blah blah. I don't understand. And please don't flex that hard. Try to assume that your audience is someone who's intelligent but might not have the knowledge that would be required to really understand the academic paper. So make it relatable and readable to most of the people. And the third suggestion I have is don't just restate your extracurriculars, because we all have our CVs and people know what we did, but but you still need to show that you specialize in this field. So how can you do that? So instead of just saying what you do, say about your feelings and what you learn from this, your motivations and how it impacts your future goals. That would be the things that maybe the AOs would want to see, instead of those shallows what you did. And the fourth suggestion I have is to make her special a little bit. What do I mean by that? Imagine it if you're 500 students who all got 5 in AP biology or something like that. Who you gonna choose? Because you don't really know what's the difference between all of them. So if in order to show that you're a little bit different from other kids, or kind of a reason to admit you, I would really suggest you to show that you're at least a little bit different from other people, what specific topic you're interested about, what specific question that you have been working on. You guys know that for me, I also always talk about behavioral economics, but for UK schools, this is a little bit different because they don't really focus on microeconomics. So for UK essays, I pretty much wrote about. So for UK, I actually talk a little bit specific about what I did. I did a Taiwanese, economic research on Taiwanese night market, and I also did a economic research with a professor from Pioneer program. So that would be some specific things that make me a little bit different from other people. Besides the economics, I don't know, courses or academic programs that we did. And the fifth suggestion I have is to make sure to cover who you will become. So at the same time the college is picking you, you'll need to understand that they are not expecting you to just go there and get a degree. At the same time, they're giving you their reputation. They might also expect something from you, and this is so relatable. If I'm a school, I really hope that my students can actually achieve something and help me to build up my reputation, right? So I'm not here to say that you have to say I'll be famous, I'll be rich, I'll be you have to show the college that you're someone who with some kind of ambition or something like that, and you have a specific goal or at least an idea of who you want to become or what kind of thing you want to achieve at this school, so that they will know that okay, this guy is here for a reason or for something that he wants to achieve, instead of just the fame, the reputation of your school. Because I really believe that if you're just here for the reputation, like, and the sixth suggestion I have, and the sixth, anyone who use this as six, and the sixth suggestion I have is to don't cover everything. Because I believe that, a lot of us had like 3 years for high schools, some of you 4 years, and obviously we did a lot of things. We did a ton of things. And even though like we want to just write about our major, there might be like 5 or to 10 things that we did about the major. But you don't have to really cover everything because most of the things might be generic, or you might not learn that much from those things. So I really suggest you to have a sketch paper, and before you actually write the essay, you put everything down on sketch paper and try to find the things that you learn the most about, or you find the most interesting or kind of different. It might help you in the application process. I really do believe that you can think that way. I mean, like, some people just say that you don't have to have that mindset, but dude, that's confirmation bias. Never write about everything, because at the end, the AOs might learn nothing about you because you're just writing about those shallow things. And the last tip I have is a few do's and don'ts. Don't try to joke, because nobody will get them. At Chaplin. Don't try to use flamboyant languages. That's very different from US essays, because they just want to see that you're really specialized in something. Don't procrastinate. At Chaplin again. And don't lie, because I don't know, just don't lie. Just don't lie. That's bad, okay? So now I'll read you guys the essay that I wrote for university, for those colleges. For most of, I just applied economics, and for most of the schools I read about the courses line, they are mostly about macroeconomics, so policy and math. Let's go. I was fascinated by the story of the German currency, mark, when I was in primary school. Stories of how people's lives were affected by this catastrophe often lingered on my mind. I kept wondering about the cause behind the incidents and what made it last for such a long time. It was not until I studied inflation in AP macroeconomics that I understood the principles behind mark. The German government printed an enormous amount of cash to decrease their debt level, bringing the country hyperinflation. Under such circumstance, it is expected a country will impose contractionary fiscal and monetary policies to hold down the economy and rid themselves of extreme misery. This is true of other countries. The UK is using tighter fiscal policy and lower interest rates to steer economic growth, while the US is utilizing quantitative easing to boost the economy. So here you can see that I try to tell them that I know something, but I also know something beyond the course. Okay. Realizing that economic policies were not unfounded, I dug into economic history and learned about the process of policy making. Through reading Chairman of the Federal Reserve and the Daily News in The Economist, I fell in love with the way economics is used to regulate overall prosperity rationally. This is actually really interesting because after I realized the courses of UK schools are all macroeconomics, I kind of freaked out because most of the books that I've read about economics are micro. But I was so glad that I actually stepped onto some of the macro books, and they're actually a little bit about policy making. Literally, Chairman of the Federal Reserve might be one of the only books that I read about macroeconomics. To further strengthen my knowledge in economics, I participated in National Economics Challenge and won Regional Top 5, which opened me to the world of behavioral and welfare economics. At school, I had a solid basis in math, now taking statistics and advanced mathematics. Besides, I learned R language, linear algebra, and machine learning on Coursera. These quantitative tools prepared me to visualize numbers and trends to further economic studies. I also paid close attention to economics around me. During COVID-19, I researched the post-COVID Chinese online retail market, as well as the overall Chinese macroeconomy. I applied financial valuation modeling, such as the discounted cash flow method and price-to-earnings methods, both of which required a comprehensive prediction of macro trend. Their international competition and lack of growth momentum due to COVID might have a year-long impact on the country. For the first time, I was amazed by the application of mathematical modeling. As a Taiwanese, I also realized that the Taiwanese night market was declining. To seek out the reason, I performed primary research on the Taiwanese night market by consulting merchants and analyzing local policies. Later, I found that the lack of education and marketing strategy accounted for merchants' low income. By researching policies from other countries' night markets, I gave my own suggestions and shared my information with the public. More financial and management education should be offered to help local merchants with their operations. Incentives like discounts ought to be provided for consumers. Through the experience, I realized that economics was more than theories in the textbook. Instead, Instead, it is related to various aspects in our daily lives: education, culture, politics, and even geography. Meanwhile, drawn by Taiwanese economy during 2020 presidential election, I read intensely about Taiwanese economic history as well as the economic relations between China and Taiwan. I realized that economic and political policies influence each other, both constituting the foundation of country's prosperity. Taiwan's economic strength is decreasing due to its suppressive trade policies and its corrupt political structure, like Eritrea. To understand more about how the world became how it is today, I hope to continue my pursuit in economics. I'm passionate about all different elements of macroeconomics, supply and demand, different policies, and diverse political ideologies. United Kingdom has a great tradition on economic studies and research and has cultivated many economists from Jerome Robinson to Nicholas Caldor. I believe an undergraduate economics education in the UK will lead into public sectors like World Bank Group and thus contribute to moderating our economic growth. So this is all of our essay. So I try to bring up different projects that I did or something that I'm really interested about economics, and I also bring up what I want to be by studying in the UK. So this is all for today, and for our next video I plan to talk about how to prepare for ECAA, which is the economics test that you'll need to take for a Cambridge economics major, and also I might talk a little bit about interview. So stay tuned of that, and I'll see you the next time.